Hello, hello. Welcome to our webinar. Today we're talking about Fail Fast, Cultivating Entrepreneurship in the Classroom. My name is Natalie Hollingshead and I'm a curriculum writer here at Banzai. If you can't hear, go ahead and check your device's audio settings. We do have all participants that are joining on mute. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw it down in the chat box. We do have people monitoring that live, and we'll answer your questions either at the end or during real time if we see them. Um, so today the webinar is on Fail Fast, like I said, cultivating entrepreneurship in the classroom, and we have three special guests joining us today. We have Erin Paulsen, Karsten Walker, and Geary Page. So I'm just going to briefly introduce our guests. Erin Paulsen is facilitator at Granite Utah CEO, which is a capstone style program for high school seniors that empowers them with real world learning experience. She has 15 years of teaching experience. Karsten Walker taught business and marketing at the high school level for 27 years, including years of involvement in DECA competitions. He's a popular speaker at financial literacy education events, and some of his former students appeared on Shark Tank and secured a deal. And then Geary Page is an educator and co-founder of the Teen Entrepreneur Association, a 501c3 nonprofit. The Teen Entrepreneur Association runs the Entrepreneur Support Center, and providing teens access to industry mentors, hands-on support, and monthly opportunities for social networking. In addition, the organization, they organize the Utah Teen Entrepreneur Pop-Up Markets. So we're going to start with Karsten sharing his information with us, and then we will go to Erin and then Geary, and then yes, if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. So we'll turn the time over to Karsten.
Well, hello. Thanks for tuning in. I'm always excited to talk about youth and teen entrepreneurship. It's something that is just really fun for me to talk about. So I taught 27 years in Utah, and I live in the area that I taught in. And now as I'm driving around town, I see quite a few of my former students' businesses. So if I want to go to a restaurant, I can go to one of my former students' restaurants. I buy my bikes and get my bike serviced from a former student that owns a bike store. One of my former students, his company is just buying out another company. So it's just, it's just kind of fun to teach entrepreneurship. And in fact, true story, the other day, I had some trees cut down, and the guy running the tree cutting business, the tree pruning business, was one of my former students. So it's just kind of fun to teach entrepreneurship, but then also live in the area where your students then start their businesses. And it's just kind of fun to see that progression. So I just wanted to talk about a couple of trends that we're seeing nationwide about high school entrepreneurs, Generation Alpha and Z, millennials. And the trends are that entrepreneurship is up. In fact, if we can go to the next slide, Generation Alpha is setting a record for in the research on teens and this age group of people that want to start their own business and don't necessarily want to work for others. These are unprecedented numbers at the highest we've ever seen. So over 3/4, 78%, have earned money in the past year, with half of those using technology to help them do so. 40% of Gen Alpha think AI, virtual reality, and smart assistants will be integral to their future careers. So they're expecting a technologically advanced, seamless experience and a world of ultimate convenience, but they're trying to figure out whether it's a influencer or whether it's a business, how they're going to bring value to the economy and make money. So if we can go to the next slide. So what I always am interested in is when I talk to students that have gotten venture capital, or when I see states trying to lure companies to their state from another state. So they're trying to build what they call an entrepreneurship ecosystem and get venture capital flowing and get all these businesses that really drive job growth into their state. And sometimes states are willing to spend lots of money in tax incentives and other deals to get companies to move or locate inside of a state. And I always think I wonder if we just thought a little bit more upstream of growing our own entrepreneurs. We know from research that entrepreneurship is contagious. So if a state had a robust high school entrepreneurship program in every high school where kids in as a junior, sophomore, junior, senior in high school could take a semester or year-long entrepreneurship course with some mentoring, with some project-based learning, could we in effect grow our own that investment in education instead of spending all the money to attract businesses from other states to move into uh, or other cities to move into an area to provide that job growth. So just something to think about. The idea of going upstream and growing your own. I mean, it happens in sports all the time, right? With a farm team or with junior level. I'm reminded of a story about Nike going down to the middle schools to find athletes that would eventually make it to the pros, so that they would wear Nike shoes. So other industries are looking at connecting with youth at younger points in their life and thinking upstream. And I just think it's time for entrepreneurship to really connect the entrepreneurship ecosystem to really connect with high schools and high school entrepreneurship teachers. So I just wanted to bring up a couple of the trends I'm seeing. So there's a national transcript study that's done by the Center for Educational Statistics, and they, instead of tracking enrollment or what states are mandating or offering, they actually randomly pull a couple thousand, whatever sample they need from each state's seniors graduating class and look at their transcripts. But from that study, we know that entrepreneurship is going up overall. And so we saw that the demand for Gen Alpha is really strong in this direction. So I just wanted to talk about a few trends and a few things that I think teachers could do. And then we'll get into 2 examples of teachers that are actually doing these kinds of things. So obviously, if you're a business or marketing CTE teacher teaching entrepreneurship, you know about DECA and FBLA. In some states, it might be BPA. I know Skills USA, FCCLA, HOSA all have kind of entrepreneurship events. But project-based learning, the learning that occurs, experiential learning from students doing these projects are amazing. A lot of my students that are entrepreneurs today running businesses did a DECA project with me when they were in high school, or an FBLA business plan or something like that. So the other really cool thing is to do mentorship models, and you'll hear about 2 of those today. And then I think typically we kind of taught entrepreneurship with like, hey, let's develop a 30-page business plan. And I think it's like we're learning to switch that to a 10-slide VC pitch or an elevator conversation, pitch. And then lastly, I think there's a huge opportunity for high school programs and entrepreneurship to connect with university programs. So in Utah, we're lucky, the University of Utah and Brigham Young University both have nationally ranked undergrad and graduate entrepreneurship programs. And so whether that's a concurrent enrollment class or bringing entrepreneurship kids from high schools to the universities or colleges, I think there's a really cool opportunity to expand that entrepreneurship ecosystem by working more closely with universities and colleges that also offer entrepreneurship. So I just wanted to leave and introduce the other 2 and kind of they'll get more in depth on what they're doing, which is really cool and exciting stuff. But I wanted to leave with the idea that you just need to start small. So if you don't have an entrepreneurship class yet at your high school, I think the first small step would be talking to your principal and your administration and your district leaders to get that class approved. And then it would be, when I was teaching, I talked to my principal into letting us do projects where the students got to keep the profits. So we did a Valentine's Rose project where we'd order roses from Costa Rica and the students would sell them, and then we would get them ready and water to them and add a chocolate and wrap them up, and they'd get delivered during school. We did a prom tuxedo project where we went and worked with a tuxedo place and sold vouchers for all the kids that needed to get a tuxedo for prom. So finding events and projects, school stores, letting students develop products for the school store, those would be the baby steps. And then as you kind of get that entrepreneurship program going in your high school, then we're going to learn from these two teachers today how you can take it to the next level. So just excited to be here. Love teaching entrepreneurship. It's fun to see students, even if they fail sometimes, right? And decide that entrepreneurship is not for them. Many businesses today like intrapreneurs, so people that can manage a team, a division, start a new location, and so whether it's an entrepreneur where you start your own business or whether you're going to be intrapreneurial inside of a firm, it's just a necessary skill set. And I fall on the side of it can be taught. It's not just that you're born with a certain skill set, but we can work on the skill set that entrepreneurs need, and it can be taught in the classroom.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. Erin?
Okay, so thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today is giving kids the opportunity to fail fast. When we talk about entrepreneurship, a lot of times we're talking, okay, this is how you start a business, and these are the things that you need to know in order to be able to do this on your own someday. But I think a lot of these kids are actually ready to be able to start now and fail fast. And it's really helpful to them to fail in an environment where they can learn something from it without it being extremely painful. It's a safer space to where we can say, okay, you did this, this was great. Maybe you could try this next time. And so when we do that in the classroom, it makes it to where they can take that after they graduate, or even, before the end of the school year, and make it something better and better. So I'm going to introduce to you the CEO program. This is a program that was started by Midland Institute of Entrepreneurship in Illinois, but it's all over the country. The big thing that I love about Midland and the CEO program is that we're building bridges to the business community and using the opportunities to learn from the community around us. I think a lot of times that students think that entrepreneurship is an idea. It's not necessarily around us all the time. And through this program, our kids have been able to see that that's not necessarily true.
Hi, I'm Nick Smith. I'm a business owner and a graduate of the CEO program. CEO is an entrepreneurship program for high school students where everything is real. Real experience, real businesses, real skills. We believe that entrepreneurship is so much more than business knowledge. It's the way you think and view the world. Students visit dozens of area businesses and interact with more than 50 guest speakers. They cooperate on a class business, and every student starts a real, viable business of their own. CEO is a transformational educational experience. It showed me how to be excited about learning. CEO isn't about what do I have to do to get through this. It's about discovering and exploring, and it's about I want to know and I need to know. In CEO, we don't just talk about the essential life skills that are so important for success. We use them every day. We don't do units and quizzes on business concepts. We use them every day. CEO is also an economic development tool. I saw incredible businesses while I was in the class, and I have a network of contacts that will help me be successful. My business, Framework Photography, is a great example. It's in my hometown because that's where I want to be. This program changed my life as a person and a business owner because that's what CEO is, and that's what CEO does.
Thank you.
Hi.
Okay, so CEO is something that's super dear to my heart because I have seen what it does for these kids. It's a way to do baby steps to help them actually start a business by the end of the year. So the kids have to apply, and a lot of them have taken business classes. Some haven't. Some just have an idea. But we have a board that is half education and half from the business community, and they choose who we want to work with. And we accepted 22 kids last year, and those are the 22 kids that we get to work with, and each one of them will be expected to have an actual functioning business by the end of the year. But where we start is we start with just a badge business, something really simple, and we're just giving them a small project, if you will, and it's just obtaining badges with zero capital. So they have to get creative and find ways of how can I make this successful, and something that, what do we offer that we can trade or do something to be able to gain the capital to start this. This year, they each got sponsors, and they ended up making over $2,000 just from the badge business alone. But the thing is they didn't just learn, okay, I'm gonna go ask somebody for money or anything like that. But no, they learned like, okay, I have some things that maybe they want. And each one of them represents the company that they chose. And they also had to design their badge, and they had to get logos and order them. So they've learned to not only talk to other business leaders, they're constantly ordering, working with vendors, doing all of those things that they're going to have to do when they're trying to find suppliers for their own businesses. So it's just sort of baby steps to prepare them to get there. Another thing that's really cool is the first semester, I set up all of the guest speakers and all of the site visits, but they have to be a host and historian. So they have to call the people after I've already set it up for them. They have to call the business leader and confirm details, and to ask them their address, talk through like, where are we going to park, things like that, that helps them get more comfortable talking to people who are older than them and maybe more experienced. So along the way, we're learning lots of lessons that make them feel like they can do this on their own. So in September, October, November, then we're working on a class business. Now, before we get going too far into this, I want you to know that every kid is actually matched with a mentor, and that mentor stays with them from the very beginning of the program all the way to the end. So they come in at least once a month, and the kids have their cell phone number, and they can call them, get advice, tell them what they're thinking, and they're a very important piece in this process. But from day to day, we try to learn from the local businesses. They call me a facilitator instead of, a teacher, because I'm actually not the one that's teaching the lessons. I have arranged for where Tuesdays they have guest speakers, people from the business community coming in and teaching them different topics about entrepreneurship. The picture that you see here, we have Nick Anderson, who owns Group 114 and several event centers in the area. He came in and he talked to them about his business plan and how he put it together and how he acquired funding in order to get his centers. And then he also sat and just gave them advice, answered questions, provided opportunities for them to be able to work through maybe questions that they were having for their own class business. So Tuesdays we have guest speakers. And then on Thursdays, we go to different site visits, visiting businesses in the local community. So that's every Thursday. And they teach us the things how their business works. And of course, they provide as advice as well. So even though we have class Tuesdays and Thursdays doing those businesses, we actually they have a class business that they're all working on together. So 22 kids working on a business of their choice. And the past few years, they've chosen some sort of Santa business. And they have to come up with the vendors. They have to come up with the location. They have to come up with all of the marketing pieces. They do all of the decorating. They do all the activities. They get a Santa Claus. Everything about that event is done by the students. And I can show you, they even did like marketing photo shoots and stuff like that. So this was their vision the first year, creating a classy Christmas event for families where they can create memories and build a lasting impression of Granite CEO in the community. And they actually set it up as far as they have their own flow chart and their own organizational chart of who's over what and what teams everybody's going to be on and who reports to who. And so they learn how a business functions as well. And these were the people that they chose to be their vendors. And then this was a photo shoot for their marketing pieces so they could advertise. And all 3 years that we've done a version of this, they've sold out. This past weekend, they sold out 380 tickets is what they sold. And they profited over $18,000. And all of that money goes into a Shark Tank event that the kids, after the class business is over, which we are working on wrapping that up right now in class. But after that, then the students have their own businesses and they all start to come up with businesses that they want to start. And they now have some of the tools necessary to start that. And so in January, they will go into a Shark Tank-like event, and our board members and a few other people from the community will be there. And they will listen to the kids pitch. And then at the end, they will be allocated the funding, some of the funding that they need in order to start their business. And yes, so after that, we've added a new dimension to the Shark Tank this year. Later, I believe it's in March, if the students are ready to scale and take their business to the next level, they can return to the Shark Tank to ask for further funding and prove, like show their financials and prove that this is a business that is ready to scale, and then they can ask for even more funds. And then the next few months, they work on building that business and getting it launched and all of that. And then in May, we have a trade show event where each one of our students actually, they actually get to start their own business and they sell. And we have set up in the local community mall. And so that's something that our students, a lot of them have been really successful at the trade show. They've really enjoyed it, but it also just gives them the opportunity to see, is this, you know, they should have been selling and that kind of thing throughout the year, but it's also their opportunity to get in a retail location with quite a bit of foot traffic to be able to see, is this something they want to do? So CEO has been something that, one, I think is a perfect capstone opportunity, because a lot of these kids, you know, some of them have gone on and said, okay, I want to stick with this business exactly. Several of the other kids have said, I want to keep doing this, but I want to do it with a different company. And they're evolving their idea, changing it to something else, and now they're ready to go bigger. Versus when they were in high school, they were like, I'm going to start small. I'm going to do something, see if I can make it work. But now they've learned life lessons to where they're ready to move on into something bigger and take on something. So what you're seeing now is a lot of the different site visits that we went on, places that we went, and I try to make it very, very broad so they can see places like Fear Factory, which is a haunted house in our area. There's VR pipe cleaning and like pipe an engineering company that we go to. We go to Wholesale Florist. We go to Crumble Cookies headquarters so we can learn about franchising. There's so many opportunities to see in your local community. And so it's always really fun to be able to explore that. Okay. I think I am done.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thanks so much, Erin, for sharing that with us. It sounds like such a cool program and just like a really good opportunity for students to get that hands-on experience. One quick clarifying question for our teachers who are joining us today. Is this a program that they would do instead of their senior year? Do they go to regular school and do this as well, or how does that work?
So they actually go to regular school, and this is just a 2-period class.
Okay.
It's year long.
Cool. Awesome. Perfect. All right. Well, now we're going to hear from Geary about the program that he's doing and some of his experiences as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I am kind of like a lifelong entrepreneur. I like to think that my first real business is the one that like actually had an LLC behind it. I started when I was 14 years old, And I've always just kind of come back to entrepreneurship my entire life. So even though I'm a school teacher, I'm still kind of running side hustles and doing different things. And about 5 years ago, myself, 3 other teachers, and a gentleman from industry, we saw like our duplication of efforts. We were trying to do these same sort of things. We were having the kids start businesses in high school. And then how do we get these businesses in front of the public? And we are each in our own high schools doing this, like in the high school, in the gym. And it's a great place for them to start. And we did that for a lot of years, probably a good, maybe even as much as 10 years. We had these little school-based activities. So when you're looking at starting your high school kids, you know, that's a great place where they can start too. Just pull out some tables out into the commons area before school, after school, even maybe during lunch, and just have those kids kind of start selling some stuff. But we got together and was like, if we're all going to be doing this, why don't we get some synergy and we'll do it together and see if we can do something similar to Erin's capstone program. So we started a nonprofit, the Teen Entrepreneur Association. And inside that, we have 3 initiatives. We're currently working on 2 of them, with the 3rd one coming on the next few months. So the first initiative of that is these teen pop-up markets, where we go into a public space, have the kids work, you know, they've been working on their projects all semester long. They can come in, set up their booths, sell to the public, make money or not. We've even tried to, one other option in this is, you know, when you're looking at ways to help your kids in a class make those first initial steps, service businesses are super easy to conceptualize. They don't require a lot of the startup capital. And also we can have a self-definition of success when we're just talking like an entrepreneurship class, or even just a project inside some other business class. So maybe your student's definition of success isn't to make money. It's just a proof of concept. It's how many people signed a piece of paper saying, yeah, if this was a real business, I would have bought it. And so when you're just starting out and this idea fell fast, we don't need to really look at a product-based business that requires some of those startup costs. It can just be a service business, or even if I was to make a product and this is what it looked like and have a prototype, would you buy it at this price point? We can define success however we want to define success for these kids. So that's my other kind of piece of advice on here. So when these kids come to pop-up market, what success they're trying to get out of that is self-directed. It's based on where they are in the business. And then, yeah, if they want to come back next year or take another business class, or hopefully you can then prove that in your school and in your market, you can support an entrepreneurship class, and we can move beyond just an accounting class or just a business management class and start putting together kind of this pathway of kids start with this class, work their way up to a senior year capstone project. You know, all of those are viable ways to be able to get businesses or get students these business experiences. The other initiative that we've started doing is an after-school program, recognizing that it's really difficult for a kid to start, I think, what any of us would consider a legitimate business or a real business in one semester is a pretty tall order. And when that one semester includes an hour-and-a-half class every other day, it's an extra tall order. And this is just kind of a labor of love that us teachers do, is we've partnered with some businesses to use their space after school. It's kind of like an after-school club, almost like entrepreneurship jujitsu. And the students can come in after school. We provide mentors, we provide workspace. The facility that we're currently located at gives us access to a large auditorium, conference rooms. It's also a space that's used by another incubator. And so there's additional networking opportunities that our high school kids have with adults in entrepreneurship. And then in addition to that, using our guest speakers in our classroom, we've got a whole mentor program that we can provide. the students access to. So we like to have at least once a month mentor meetups where the kids come in kind of later in the evening with our mentors, and they can get one-on-one help, kind of round robin style, where they can meet with a variety of these mentors, kind of introduce themselves and their business challenges, and see what networks the adults are able to provide, these mentors are able to provide to their to these students. And then using some sponsorship monies that we've been able to get, and we're always looking for donations to help, we're trying to provide some of the resources, physical resources that students can use. So we just got a photo box, large photo box that the students can put their stuff in. One of our success stories was a student does some upcycling, and so they buy clothes off of the oh, help me out here. There's just discounters, stuff like that. So they pull in the recycling, right? And then they clean up the clothes. He puts them on his little website, and he had just taken pictures off of his kitchen table. And he had this one shirt that he was trying to sell for like $50. And he had it on his website for like a month, and nobody had bought it. He'd come into our Entrepreneur Support Center, used the photo booth, took a really nice, good, high quality photo of it, put that photo on his website, and 3 hours later, he had sold that t-shirt. So a lot of these kids, they just need some of that infrastructure that would represent capital outlay at the beginning of their business. And that's a bridge too far for these young kids that are starting. They can't go to banks and get startup loans. They can't, there's a lot of these resources that adults might have in starting their businesses. These kids are less than 18 years old. They can't sign contracts. We need to be able to provide resources and things for them to be able to get through those hurdles until they're able to do them on their own. A lot of these kids, kind of speaking back to what Karsten mentioned earlier with this kind of renaissance in entrepreneurship, teenage entrepreneurship, with child labor laws such as they are, a lot of these high school kids simply cannot get jobs, or the jobs that they're getting are those fast food jobs, and they're not interesting. And they know that they are capable, and we know that they are capable. And so when a teenager is looking for a job, and they're looking at what industry and what the economy as it is can provide to them, and they know that they can do better than that, they just need support and help from us teachers in being able to connect them to resources and just let them run, and they'll run. So there's kind of my words of advice. Just think in terms of service businesses, keep it simple, redefine your idea of success, and say, what milestone is success for me and my business. And then look at your guest speaker resources and start there in building a mentorship collaboration, a consortium, and support these kids. You'd be impressed and amazed at what they can do.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds just like they need it modeled to them, right? Like what to do,
Yeah.
and even pointed out, here's a business idea, that sort of thing. Do you find that students are really receptive to this idea of entrepreneurship in the classroom, and is it a bigger sell to like administrators, or do you find that the administrators see the value in it and the students require more effort to get them interested?
Kids are interested in the concept. It is a very easy sell to go to a kid and say, hey, would you be interested in making some money while you're in high school? Nobody's going to say no to that.
Yeah.
And from the administrator, and even from your mentors and your guest speakers, it's a very easy sell to say, hey, do you want to help a teenager be successful in starting a business? Nobody's going to say no to that.
Yeah.
No adult, no business is going to say, no, I don't want to help children.
Right.
So yeah, I think on both cases, it's just the initiative, the impetus to actually ask the students to take on the project. Yeah, they're going to be scared.
Yeah.
And I will say, those first couple of years as being a teacher, when you don't have photos of past events, you'll go to a website. I should mention our website is teenentrepreneurship.org. We've got an events tab where we keep pictures of all of our previous events. And so you can start there and piggyback off of other resources and other teachers that are doing some things like that, and show that vision
Mhm.
to your kids so
Mhm.
that they kind of start on the right track. One of the other things that I would recommend doing is, even with these big projects, you see that Erin and I both in our programs, we have opportunities for the kids to kind of start small. And so, yes, we're gearing up to these big pop-up markets and we're gearing up to these big trade shows, but we also provide opportunities like, let's take a school lunch, let's take a time during school and let's practice your business.
Mhm.
Or if we've got a school store and we've got some merchandise, let's assign out merchandise in the school store, and you're going to go out and no, you can't discount the price. It's not a sell.
Mhm.
You are highlighting, you're spotlighting this product in the school store, and you're going to have a little table out in front of the school store, somewhere in that commons area, where you're going to practice selling something out of the school store. There's lots of little ways where you can start small and kind of build that momentum, build your vision for what big projects, what big initiatives you want to do inside your building.
Yeah, I love that. What are the skills that you think entrepreneurship classes can build? And this is a question for Erin, Karsten, and Geary. Beyond just to say, if there is a student that maybe doesn't want to start their own business or will never be successful in that realm, what are the other skills they can learn from entrepreneurship classes? Like, what are the, the trickle down effects?
I can answer that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead, Erin.
I actually have had several kids that through the program and actually starting their own business, they recognize that they don't want to be the number one. They want to be somebody's number two. So they would rather be a CFO, or they would rather be somebody being a COO, to where not everything falls to them, but they can do that. And so from that, they recognized, hey, maybe I'm really good at marketing. I was really good at social media marketing and getting my product to my target market. And I can do that. I'm really good at sales. I can go talk to anybody and I can, convince them that this is the product for them, but they're maybe not so good at putting all the pieces together. I think that programs like this, but also entrepreneurship in general, helps them highlight their strengths, and not just highlight their strengths, but recognize, I don't enjoy this. And one of the big words that I hear from kids constantly is, I want to go where my passion is. They're all about their passion. And a lot of them don't want to just start a product like just because they want to work for themselves. They want to change the world, or they want to share a passion that they have with other people who might share that passion. And so they notice, something missing in their community, and they have this niche market that they feel like, I can help these people, and that is what I feel my calling is. And I feel like sometimes that is what all of these programs help them do. It's sort of almost like a soul searching and finding themselves portion, and building soft skills at the same time, to where they know they can talk to people and they can communicate what it is they need and want.
Yeah, that's great. Karsten, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything Erin said, but just to think through, I think it's a mindset. An entrepreneurial mindset is where you have a growth mindset. You might see some of the obstacles and some of the problems, but you see creative problem solving. It's really decision making, managing risk, and there's academic skills, writing, communication skills. So there's soft skills that you learn, project management, that, like, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether for a for-profit business, or whether you get involved in a nonprofit, right? That is meeting some needs or wanting to change the world, or whether or all of those. And with Generation Alpha, we're seeing a big spike in interest in content creation and influencer marketing, in social media marketing. Whatever it is, there's skills you're going to learn in the entrepreneurship class that are applicable whether you become you start a large business, you become self-employed and just have your own little small business. It applies to all classes, right? Problem solving, decision making. It's just I like life skills.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it seems like they just applied anything, right? Like I think we all know someone who's maybe a dentist and running their own dental practice didn't realize, oh, I should have majored in business management instead, because there's just such a huge component to running an office, for instance, right? Like anything, there's just all sorts of sides to it. Aside from being that passionate creative, there's someone that has to send the invoices, right? Or do all that sort of thing. So that's great.
Interject in there. Another thing from like a teacher management, teacher classroom management is don't be afraid of the students pivoting in their projects and ideas. Give them opportunities to, like I like to do Shark Tank pretty early within maybe the first 5 weeks of the course. And if you're not happy with your idea, there's a pivot opportunity. If you're done with yours and you like somebody else, go work for them and take on some of those other sides. And then also, Karsten kind of alluded like to the nonprofits, but familiarize yourself with all the different forms of legal ownership. Because you like B Corps, benefit corps out there, and there's lots of other ways to organize your business where you can pursue your passion and do something that you like to do, and it doesn't have to be just pure profit driven.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love the idea of pivoting, right? To promote that growth mindset and this idea of like, well, this didn't work, but I learned this one key thing and I can take that and put that to work somewhere else, because that's just a really good life skill, right? I thought we would talk for a second about this concept of failing fast. You alluded to it. It's the title of our webinar. Erin, what does fail fast mean to you? Or why does that phrase sort of resonate as someone who teaches entrepreneurship?
One of the things I think that the kids, they want to know everything and just be able to jump in. And, our program specifically teaches them to jump in, but then they recognize really fast that they don't have the tools necessary to get there. And so they either find somebody who's been there by reaching out to their network that we're building as we go. They reach out to me and ask for help, or they just dive right in, go for it, fail, and learn that lesson themselves. And there's a lot of ways to do that. But I would say that, obviously we don't want them making every mistake themselves when they could have learned from somebody else. But I think specifically for teenagers, there's value to being able to, make the mistake, recognize it, because they'll probably never make that mistake again. They'll probably make others, but they learned so much from like feeling their feelings that they needed to in order to learn from that experience of failure. But it also makes them realize, I got to get better at that. And I think the reason ours is set up the way it is because, we have these small steps, and Geary mentioned the same thing. The small steps help them to build skills when they don't even realize they're building the skills. They're slowly, like they'll fail in a small way and then they'll learn. And then by the time second semester comes, they actually know a lot, and their mistakes aren't as big as they would have been in first semester.
Yeah, that's great. Karsten, you had mentioned that you posted something about this webinar on LinkedIn, and someone made a comment about the failing fast. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, for sure. I posted just to advertise this webinar today, and somebody posted something about why is everybody talking about failing fast? Why can't we talk about succeeding slowly? And to me it was kind of the same thing. Success isn't an overnight thing. It's a lot of times we see the successful person or business, but we don't realize all the little baby steps that it took for that person to get there over maybe even decades of time, day in, day out, doing the entrepreneurship grind or whatever it's called. So I think school is a unique place for our teenagers today, and in a classroom guided by a teacher, and especially as you saw with these two groups, mentors and guest speakers and industry contacts, they can experiment with a safety net, right? And they can learn where the failure is kind of, the downside is limited, and then they can, I think very small successes early on instill confidence, and then that leads to them taking more calculated, thoughtful risk. And I just want to lead this one last idea is a lot of times we're teaching reasoning and logic in school, and we're teaching deductive logic and all these kinds of things. But I think entrepreneurship teaches this idea of what if, what can be, this kind of inductive thinking or inductive logic where we think, oh, this is the way it is, this is the status quo, but what if we did it this way? Or what if we could be more productive, or do it more efficiently, or do it for less money, or help more people, or solve this problem? And I really love that idea that you don't have to accept the status quo, but you can think what if and make changes.
Yeah, perfect. I love that. Well, if anyone has any questions for our teachers, now is the time to throw those in the chat. Is this?
One other thing that I think it's super important to recognize, like the fail fast versus the small successes or slower. I think that it's important to recognize that failure in entrepreneurship is normal and expected, and it should be, and it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And the thing is I think a lot of kids see the fail and they're like, oh no, and they panic, versus we celebrate that of, hey, you have an opportunity to learn and to make your product better and to make better decisions. And that's part of the process. And so I think that that's just a positive.
And as a teen, they don't have the responsibilities that an adult would have. That price of the education that they've gotten from failure is very, very low.
Yeah, in fact, that's something that we're big on here at Banzai, is learn by doing, right? We want to teach kids about budgeting and college and careers and digital wellness and digital citizenship, and we want them to learn and make the mistakes in the simulated game and realize, oh, I totally ran out of money, I didn't save enough, whatever, so that they can hopefully in the real life go and not have to make those mistakes. And if they are going to make mistakes, make them when they're younger, right? When you can fail on a much smaller scale, right? Than as an adult, if we were to, go belly up mid-career or something like that. So yeah, that's great. If we have any questions, let me see. Feel free to add those into the chat or the Q&A. I think we have both. I'm curious to know if there's any misconceptions about entrepreneurship that you guys want to demystify. Like, is there something that you hear time and time and again that you're like, no, that's not accurate? Or are we, teaching kids to like focus on making money too much or whatnot? Is there anything that you've heard over the years?
Yeah, I'd like to take a crack at this one first. So I think Banzai is known as kind of a financial literacy company, and I think speaking as someone who taught financial literacy, what we're really doing with teen entrepreneurship is we're expanding our entrepreneurship stock or capital. So we're working with human capital and their skills and talents, but we're also working, hey, in order to launch a business, you might need something called savings. So you have to earn some money and spend less than you earn. So you have this savings so that you have with your friends that you can access through also your friends and family's savings, right? Your network, your social capital, and then you can start this business, right? With your human capital, social capital, and actual capital, the savings that you can invest. And it's not so much that these investments are risky, but they're calculated risk. And so I think there's a connection between financial literacy and entrepreneurship that I think is really important. And I think Utah, their entrepreneurial climate here is partly a lot of young college kids are in programs and they're starting businesses in college or in high school. And I think that's partly because they have access to capital, the capital that I talked about.
Yeah, very interesting. Gary, do you have any thoughts to add on that?
Yeah, as you're working on your network and your contact as a teacher, look at those universities and their business programs, partner with them, create kind of that ladder. That's a wealth of resources, space, network that goes along with that. I'd also check your individual states' laws. A few years back, Utah passed a wonderful lemonade stand law that makes running these occasional minor businesses, meaning under the age of 18, completely legal. I
Oh,
can't say that that's necessarily going to be the legal situation that you're going to find in your state. So you may just want to make sure that you've got a state that's got an entrepreneurial climate and is supportive of these young entrepreneurs.
yeah, very interesting. Erin, any thoughts?
I think the biggest one is dispelling the myth that you have to be a certain age to be an entrepreneur. My 4-year-old, 8-year-old, and 11-year-old are running a business right now, and it's not lemonade. And I think a lot of times they think about, oh, well, when they're young, it has to be a lemonade stand or something like that. And it doesn't. If you can find a need, like, you can do it. My son was selling beads at a baseball game and made $400. He's 4. There's not a whole lot, and they're like doing their ordering, and they're sitting there learning how to use spreadsheets and things like that. And there's a lot of resources online that can help parents with that. But I think the biggest thing is not letting them be limited to where they have to do that. They do things for 4th of July, selling like glow toys and stuff like that. But I think giving them the possibility of being able to sell or to try something outside of the lemonade stand, I think is super important. And I'm super grateful for Utah's lemonade stand law, because I think that opens things up. But there's also a lot of, like, for maybe even elementary kids, they have, young entrepreneurship fairs for even elementary kids. And I would say, get kids activated in entrepreneurship as young as you possibly can, to where then when we talk about it, once they hit high school, they're actually thinking, well, I used to do that. Why wouldn't I be able to do it now?
Yeah, it's another thought. A lot of your farmers markets will allow teens to set up for free.
Oh, very
So
cool.
check your local farmers markets.
Yeah, and that if they try something and it's a little bit of a bust, it wasn't a huge outlay of cash,
Yeah.
or it's just they've got more time than money, so they can just
Yeah, it wasn't a $50
and try.
entry fee.
Yeah, that's very cool. I love it. Well, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much, Erin, Geary, Karsten, for joining us. Just a few quick things for our teachers. I just wanted to announce again that we have a new Banzai Life Literacy Scholarship. This scholarship, it will be awarding 5 $2,000 scholarships, and students just have to play through at least 2 Banzai games through a classroom experience, and then submit an original essay of 350 to 500 words on why financial literacy is important, or how they plan to use what they've learned in the future. Application deadline's not until March 31st, and there's no GPA requirement or volunteer or service hours or anything like that. Simply play the games, write the essay, and submit it. And we'll be sending that out to teachers. And and you can also find the link on our website to enter. There's some eligibility requirements. You have to be 16, reside in the United States, high school juniors, seniors, that sort of thing. And a reminder that this webinar does qualify you for free PD credit. So if you are watching live, you'll get a follow-up link in an email after the webinar that you can click to complete a survey. If you're watching this on demand on our website, you can click the Get Certificate button above the video. If you want to walk through for using Banzai, you can use these QR codes, take a screenshot, or pull up right now our Banzai Basics PD session, or to sign up for a free demo with our teacher support team. Please follow us on social media for updates, information about webinars, contests, scholarships, and just general financial literacy tips. And then if you want to connect with our guests today, this is their information for Erin, Karsten, and Geary. You can find them all on LinkedIn. Maybe we'll be sending out the information, or I'll send a slide out or something with our follow-up email. And then thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.